I released a podcast episode with Tyler Nelson in January of 2023. So this is about 3 years ago. And in that episode, he talked about this guy in Flagstaff that was one of his clients that had this huge breakthrough season and climbed his first couple V14s and all this stuff and like increased his finger strength by 30 pounds per hand. And I was just like, whoa. And he was talking about you. So yeah, tell me about the spring of 2022. What was your climbing looking like? What were you frustrated with? Why did you reach out to Tyler Nelson at that time?
So I think to put it in context, like at that point, I was still mostly based in Flagstaff, and I had been into roof bouldering for a little while. I had done a little bit since over the years that I was in Flagstaff, but never focused on it. And I really dug into it in 2020. I went out for a hike in an old bouldering area this is like early pandemic days, like right at the beginning. Me and my friend Wilson drove separate cars out to go for a hike, and we were checking out an old bouldering area that like John Sherman had put some stuff up in Arizona, and we found this roof, and I was like, I don't know if this is climbable, but if it is, it's one of the best things I've ever seen, and I got nothing better to do, so let me just go out here and clean the line and like start checking it out and build a landing. And I put several days into it and tried some moves here and there and like kind of could see that it probably worked. And I was like, this is one of the best boulders I've ever seen in my life. And if it goes, it's probably V15. Like, I don't know if I could ever climb it. At that time, I think I was still trying to boulder V10.
Oh, wow.
And I'd probably done V10s. I guess I know I'd done V10s on a rope, but I'd never done one like over pads.
Okay.
And so I'd done V10s on sport climbs, but I wanted to roof boulder V10, and I was like kind of stuck. And so I found this thing. It was amazing. I cleaned it. I started trying it. And from that point on, it was like kind of a guiding light. I was like, I want to climb this boulder. And it has like a winter season. And I tried it a couple winters in a row with Matt Gentile, and he ended up doing the first ascent of it. And then I got closer and closer, but wasn't like, I was still a little ways away from it. And I think that was the context in which like I was really excited to work with Tyler to kind of level up finger strength to just get more margin on it. And I reached out to Tyler, and I think what I told him was, I just want to get my fingers stronger. I don't really care about anything else. So like, if it's just hangboarding and pulling, that's fine. Like, I don't need to climb. I just want to get my fingers stronger right now. And what he came back with was not what I expected. It was wall crawls, and a combination of wall crawls and the active style hangboarding. It wasn't just like finger curls, but it was hangboarding at a load where I could be actively engaging. And so making sure I wasn't ever going above, it was like 75% of max. And it was the place where you kind of feel like you could lift yourself off the ground with your fingers rather than like sag onto your fingers.
Right. It's like the difference between being able to like slightly close your fingers and clamp down on the hold versus just surviving and like resisting them opening up, if that
exactly
makes sense for people.
Like we'd call it overcoming isometric instead of a yielding isometric.
Mm-hmm.
And the combination of that, in my memory, the wall crawls were like the predominant stimulus. And then the tracking mechanism was a max pull on the Tindeck, just like maximum finger force, not in that active style, but just the traditional passive style. And that was like what he gave me as a carrot to like, okay, let's keep measuring and let's keep tracking. And I'm going to throw these other things at you that you're maybe skeptical of or don't want to do. But if we can keep this number moving up, then it'll show that they're working.
Mm-hmm. How often were you testing?
I was testing twice a week.
That's often.
Yeah.
That's something that's always like dicey to talk about with people because it's so easy to overdo it if you're just testing constantly. I struggle with that. I try to do it no more than like once a month usually, but yeah.
Yeah, I was max pulling twice a week, and I wouldn't program that. I don't program that for many people, and I don't recommend that. But at that time, it made sense for me, and it was motivating to see the consistent. It wasn't linear, but it was fairly consistent improvement.
Yeah, super motivating. Okay, so what happened?
I got dramatically better on the board. My control on small holds improved. Like, I don't know how to quantify it, but it was like a V grade and a half difference on the 2016 moon board.
In how much time?
Long term, in I bet 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow, that's really good. And you're only climbing, so wall crawls for people, you're only climbing, doing really slow laps up the board, grabbing small holds with juggy feet, and you were spending like 5 seconds on each hold, I think I remember you saying.
Yep. I kind of took what Tyler recommended and ran with it in a slightly different way than he programs normally, I think, where he's usually recommending like open holds, open feet. And what I did is set a very specific circuit on really hard small holds. And so I took the rehab and or like moderate training stimulus of wall crawls and turned it into like my primary high intensity. And I went full effort on them, but with the strict rules of like, I had to control the holds for 5 seconds. I climbed on an interval timer. And so every 5 second beep, I could move a hand. And over time, when I could send the circuit, like I would project the circuit, it would be a 12 move circuit, 5 seconds each, 60 seconds total. And then when I could send it, then I would have to shake each hand and like lock off each hold and kind of own that position. And I did almost all of it in like a squared up stance where you're like, if right hand is on, left foot is on, and you have that cross body tension. And so very, very basic climbing movement, and usually dropping the trailing foot. So you're putting all that force across your chain and like cross loading across the body. It's very similar to what the Hoover brothers did on their system board training, where their rules were like no drop kneeing, no backstepping. You have to square up and you have to own this position. And I had been familiar with that style of training for a long time. So I loved the combination of that with less of a ladder on holds and a little more variety. So like the hold shape was different and like the move size, and you weren't always doing exactly the same move, but just doing small moves crawling up the moon board. So
you're doing this on the moon board. That's hard because there's no feet.
Yeah.
On the 2016 anyway, there's like hardly any footholds.
Yeah. And so a lot of times it was high feet on, like I would just take high good feet wherever I could get them and really square up. And so it was like the hands were on the worst holds on the moon board and the feet were on the best holds on the moon board.
Okay.
And so it was trying to take the slipperiness of any footholds, or like, it's not necessarily a drill that's meant to improve climbing skill, but climbing specific strength. And so it's like dumbing down the technique and maximizing the body tension and finger strength.
And is this what all of your climbing, air quotes, looked like for 6 to 8 weeks? Like you're doing no fun climbing, you're not projecting, you're not doing like hard project moves or anything like that?
I wasn't climbing anything else on the board or inside. This was all of my training time. I think I was just social sport climbing and doing a little bit of bouldering for fun, but it wasn't like a performance phase. I think I was working on a couple, like rope soloing on a couple multi-pitch projects, but it wasn't a high performance phase of any type.
Okay. Yeah, that's intriguing because that's something I've still never tried. Like at this point, I'm pretty familiar with wall crawls. I made a video on them. I use them all the time, but I've only ever used them as a supplement at the start of my bouldering sessions. Like I've only ever done 3, or maybe 4. Like I'll do some off the wall warm ups and maybe do some finger curls and then do 3 or 4 wall crawls and then have my bouldering session. I've never done a full session of wall crawls, and I've never done a full training cycle of just wall crawls. That seems so tedious and boring, but also like, yeah, that could probably make a really big difference. Like, I'm getting to the point on the tension board where I've been able to get away with just improving by having fun, just climbing on it, up to this point for like a year and a half. But it is getting to the point where I'm like, I might have to really train on some of these specific small wood holds to unlock the next, series of projects and stuff that I have. So
yeah. And I think there's a way to do it where it's not exclusive. I think that one of the benefits of this style, I'd have to look back at my notes on this to see what Tyler and I went back and forth on, but the advantage of being exclusive in that training style was that the load is very controlled and the sessions are pretty short, and like you don't have velocity loading or shock loading on the fingers. Like, you're taking every hold in control. And so in that way, like, the risk of the session is slightly lower than a normal bouldering session in terms of finger injury.
That makes sense.
And so I was doing the wall crawls, I believe it was 4 days a week.
Oh yeah, that's a lot.
And so that was like taking away that velocity component allowed that session frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably doing 8 sets total, 4 days a week.
Okay.
And so not huge volume, but like every set was hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a set on like 4 sets on pinches, 4 sets on crimps. I think that was the first cycle I did. Yeah, it changed my climbing on the board, and it also increased my finger force, just like the traditional style of testing on a tin deck. Yeah, probably 30 pounds on each hand. So,
wow. And you think it was mostly from the on the wall crawls, strength training, and not as much from the hangboarding you were doing, or some combination of those two things?
I think it was the wall crawls, because that was a structural change. And I think we get these recruitment changes from, like, if you consistently do high intensity pulls at low volume, you get a lot of recruitment improvement, and these neurological changes that maybe don't require much structural change in the forearm, but those, at some point, those play out, and like you can only recruit so much, and you need to introduce a different style of training, or potentially this is where I don't know where the science is at, and I'm not an expert, but like, do you need to hypertrophy the forearm? I'm not sure. I think you need a shift in training stimulus, and often I think that's introducing a bit more volume. And so my best understanding, and the way I like to think of it, is that these wall crawls are a more interesting way to do repeaters.
Right.
Because the stimulus to the forearm isn't too different from like a Rock Prodigy Anderson Brothers style repeater. It's 60 seconds total. It's intermittent tension on each hand, and so it's kind of a long strength getting into a power endurance or like glycolytic, and potentially doing some forearm hypertrophy, maybe structural changes, whatever it is. It's like longer than just a pure strength recruitment stimulus. And so I think that was, looking back and thinking about it now, I think that was the shift I needed. And it's possible I could have gotten a similar forearm adaptation with a repeater cycle, but wall crawls are a lot more fun than that.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's not only a more interesting option for that style of stimulus for your fingers, because repeaters probably do a somewhat similar thing. I've done a shit ton of repeaters. They're so tedious and boring, but the other thing about them is they trash you so much that you can't really climb. And so why not get the same stimulus or very similar stimulus in your fingers and forearms, and also be training the rest of your body at the same time and maintaining at least some movement, on the wall and getting some practice. But like, imagining what you were doing with the front on left hand, right foot, getting that crossbody tension, you're also like probably training your glutes and your hamstrings and your calves and your ankles and like getting a lot more out of the footholds, like leg crimping, right? You're honing all of the things, your shoulders, all the strengths involved in that style of movement as well. And like, why not? It's really hard to mimic all of those things in the weight room with different lifting kettlebell exercises or whatever. So yeah, it seems like it's maybe just like repeaters 2.0,
Exactly.
It's just
I
better.
like to think of it as hangboarding with your whole body.
Yeah.
Because you are probably getting some strength stimulus to all those muscle groups you mentioned, but I think the coordination of all of them is the magic of like understanding how to. It's not a conscious understanding. It's like a motor pattern understanding for your body to fire the forearms and the external rotators and the glute and like all these muscles in our trunk to keep that body tension between right hand and left foot, and to, in the modern terminology, like to really strengthen the things that would get you in that vacuum style, where like you're strengthening the muscles that pull your shoulder close to the wall. And I think there's different ways to develop it, but I think this is one of my favorite.
If you found this video useful, I put together a free masterclass on how to unlock your full potential in climbing, where I share some of the best nuggets I've learned from interviewing the best climbers in the world. It's for any climber who wants to improve, and it'll help you take your climbing to the next level. Link in the description below, or you can click right here to watch it right now.